So really just in place here, just put, in place of Pharisees, put Catholics. It's the same thing. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut the kingdom of heaven in people's face, for you neither enter yourselves nor allow those who would enter go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across the sea and land to make a single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. And Jesus warned the apostles of exactly what would happen, and it has. I know that after my departure, fierce wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock, destroying the flock, abusing the flock. Fierce wolves, meaning those people would come in as believers of Christ in their Pharisees' robes and all of that, saying that they're the first church. And they would be nothing but false prophets. So here's the thing. There's been so much truth being revealed over the last 7 years, right? Now that truth would not have been being revealed or found out if it wasn't for that God said the timing is now to start, for the people to start seeing the truth. So the Catholic Church can continue to try to protect themselves, and those congressmen and representatives in Washington can continue to act like that they don't know anything about all this abuse the Catholic Church has done. No, they know. They just don't stand up for the right things, do they? So their judgment will be even harsher because of that crap. Because I would bet that just like how everyone says AIPAC, which is that Jewish organization that funds our politicians, well, the Catholic organization funds many of our politicians, which is why they don't do the right thing. And they don't do the right thing for this country. So even though they think they're going to get out of this, they're not. So the problem here is that I don't think that that the ending of this can come to a close until people get out of the Catholic Church, the parishioners, and go to one of your other brothers or sisters. I mean, half of the parishioners in the Catholic Church are liberal, so they know that it's not the real church. That's the reason why half of Catholics are far left liberal. So, believe me, those type people know what church they're in. They've just convinced you all. Because again, what is Satan's whole goal? Well, his whole goal is to get as many people on his path as he can. Catholic Church has a lot of power. I would say they have a lot of power even over controlling and shadow banning videos. But they're not going to be successful because at some point, Jesus will rip that veil off and it will be an even harsher punishment for them. Because God has given so much grace during this period, so much grace for the politicians to do the right thing, so many people to do the right thing, to recognize the sign of the times, recognize that truth is being revealed. You can't get out of this now. All you're doing is sealing your fate by continuing to ignore this. Think about how all of our politicians have ignored the abuse the Catholic Church has done to innocent children. So every time they get up there and talk about the innocent children at the border and this, you don't even care about the children that have been harmed by the Catholic Church. So nobody's buying your bullshit. I saw when I worked with DCFS kids, I saw how Catholic Charities didn't give a shit. It's the perfect charity. I mean, where I worked was the nun was running the place. She had no moral compass. She's still running it. She's running the nursery there. They have a crisis nursery. Because these politicians, no wonder back then when I was contacting Catholic organizations saying this is what's going on, what they're doing to the kids in the DCFS. They didn't care. Nobody cared. No politicians got back to me. Nobody cared. Because they all cover for it. And it's even worse now. Because not one person stood with Marjorie Taylor Greene when she called out the Catholic Church in 2022, and she's right. So These people that don't want to say the truth, well, first of all, they're just burying themselves. But we can't have a true reckoning and recovery of the nation until the Catholic Church is that's the main story everywhere, and to where politicians are addressing it, not trying to protect the Catholic Church. But as long as they're getting a bunch of money from the Catholic Church, then of course they're not going to say the truth. There's no reforming it. Because at some point there needs to be accountability. There has not been. I mean, now there's being more accountability because God says, no, now I'm going to show who you are. So when the Catholic League wants to stand against God, the very God that is revealing this truth, well, it's not going to look good for the Catholic League. You kind of know who they're working for. But our nation will not be able to overcome this until people realize that we have to be painstakingly honest. That's one thing in AA that, a lot of people, it drives people out of AA because you have to be painstakingly honest with yourself. Rigorously honest. It means looking at you so that you can clear the side of the street and you can see clearly. That's what God wanted. So that you can understand the spirit, but you got to clean up your garbage. And that's hard. A lot of people, even whether they're not alcoholics or not, don't like to look at that. They don't want to look at their own character defects. But those that do, there's this lifting and sort of this, part of the veil gets lifted and you understand that relationship with God more. Most people don't want to do that. They just hide from their own character defects. The Catholic Church is great at doing that. But the Catholic Church has been being run by something wicked, which is why their deeds, their fruits are not good. This is not an attack at them. This is being painstakingly honest. For our country to recover, for our country to be prosperous and turn around, it means we have to be painstakingly honest about all things going on. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just that it has to be said loud and often that the people in Congress are not doing right by children, because otherwise they would be calling out the Catholic Church. All the other churches in this country that are Christian, they should be calling out the Catholic Church. This should be an ongoing thing for our nation to be restored. God will restore this nation when we want to get honest about all things. That's what needs to happen. And I would say the last line of all of that is going to be the Catholic Church. It needs to be called out because it has been the veil that everybody's been hiding under, all the wicked people that have been hiding under, bringing more and more parishioners in, corralling them in just like this, not caring, oh yeah, we're going to hurt your children, we're going to abuse children. It's going to go on over and over again because they see it as a sacrifice, because it's a false church. And all the while leading more and more people into that path. Why did Candace Owens recently become a Catholic? Because they keep wanting to promote Catholicism. This will be, the Catholic Church will be the hardest part for America. But we have to face it if we want to have this nation restored. No longer can people run from it and pretend like it's just a incident here and there. No, millions and millions over the history of the Catholic Church. Innocent children have been being abused, sodomized, molested, whipped, just having, that's like soul crushing when you do that, because some never make it back to believing in God again. So I guarantee you there will be harsh penalties by God because of that, because they used as a spiritual leader to abuse these children. They worship Baal and Moloch. When we can get honest in this country that the Catholic Church is the Antichrist, then we can be restored.